what if peace and confidence came from simply letting people do what they want? Sounds kind of wild.
Yeah, a bit counterintuitive maybe.
Yeah, but Mel Robbins' let them theory might just change your life.
Yeah.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack how letting go actually protects your energy and, sharpens your focus.
Right. We're diving into Mel Robbins' Let Them theory, and we're looking at excerpts from her audiobook transcript. Now, a lot of people know her for the 5-second rule.
Oh, yeah, the action-oriented thing.
Exactly. Very much about individual action and self-improvement. But what's interesting here is how let them sort of emerged as this key insight for handling our relationships with other people more effectively.
And our mission here really is to get to the heart of this let them idea for you. We want to understand its power, how it can maybe offer a new way to look at daily interactions, and ultimately help you protect your energy, sharpen that focus on what really counts for you.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so where did this whole let them thing even come from? How did she get there from the 5-second rule?
Well, it's a useful contrast, actually. Like we said, the 5-second rule, that's very internal, conquering your own hesitation.
Get up and go.
Pretty much. But the let them theory shifts the focus outward, to how we connect or maybe disconnect with others. Robbins talks about her own realization that a huge chunk of her stress or anxiety, it was tied up in trying to manage or, frankly, worry about what other people were thinking, feeling, doing.
Which, let's be honest, who doesn't do that?
Yeah.
We spend so much headspace trying to figure people out or nudge them in a certain direction.
We really do. And the core idea she landed on is, well, it's pretty fundamental. You just cannot control another person. Simple as that.
Hard pill to swallow sometimes.
It can be. But, their thoughts, their feelings, how they choose to act, ultimately, that's their domain, not yours. And from accepting that comes the big promise of let them, which is that it can genuinely free you. Free you from getting caught up in their opinions, their drama, their judgments. And that frees up your energy, your focus for what actually matters to you.
Okay, so breaking it down, what is the let them theory in simple terms?
At its core, it's freedom. Freedom from that constant, often unconscious, urge to manage or control what other people do. It's about shifting from always reacting to everything around you.
To just living your own life.
Exactly. Living more proactively from your own center. Instead of always trying to steer or fix or react to everyone else, you learn to just let them be.
I can instantly think of examples like that colleague who's always kind of grumpy, or maybe a parent who's always got advice you didn't ask for.
Right.
The idea is just internally, you just say, okay, let them.
Precisely. Those everyday examples really show its power.
Yeah.
And this is important, we need to be clear what let them is not.
Okay.
It's not about saying negative behavior is okay. It's not ignoring mistreatment or just letting people walk all over you.
Right. It's not passive acceptance of bad stuff.
No. It's about controlling your reaction. It's about consciously deciding that you won't let their negativity, their choices, whatever it is, disrupt your inner peace, drain your energy.
That distinction is crucial.
Oh.
Okay, but why do we even have this urge to control people? Where does that come from? It feels pretty deep-seated.
Robbins suggests, and I think there's a lot of psychological backing for this, that it comes from a really primal place. Fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of being excluded, fear of not being liked, fear that if we're not managing things, it'll all just, fall apart. You could even argue it's evolutionary, wanting predictability, safety within the group.
And you see it play out constantly. Parents hovering over kids.
Oh, definitely.
Partners trying to change each other's habits, even just pushing our opinions on friends because, we think we know best.
Absolutely. And we chase this illusion that control gives us safety. That if we can just manage everyone and everything, we'll be safe from, pain or disappointment or rejection.
But it is an illusion, isn't it? Because people are going to do what they're going to do anyway.
Pretty much. People will make their own choices, live their own lives, often regardless of how hard we try to steer them.
And the kicker is, all that effort we put into controlling things, it doesn't actually make us feel better. Usually the opposite.
Exactly. As Robbins points out, it often just ramps up our own anxiety, drains our energy. Psychologically speaking, trying to control the uncontrollable is basically a recipe for stress.
So this let them idea, it feels like more than just a quick self-help tip. Does it connect to bigger philosophies?
It really does, and that gives it weight, I think. It echoes ideas from, ancient wisdom traditions. Stoicism, for instance, focus on what's in your control. accept what isn't.
Right, the dichotomy of control.
Exactly. Or Buddhism with its teachings on detachment, even modern therapeutic concepts like radical acceptance, accepting reality as it is without judgment, let them, feels like a really practical, everyday way to apply those deeper principles.
Okay, that adds a layer. It's not just shrugging things off, it's a mindful approach. Now, you mentioned something earlier, is let them and let me. What's the let me part? That sounds important.
Oh, it's critical. It's the essential counterbalance. Without it, let them could maybe slide into just indifference or apathy.
Right.
The let me part is about taking radical responsibility for your own stuff, your life, your happiness, your health, setting your own boundaries, going after your own success.
So while you're letting others be, you're actively working on yourself. It's not passive.
Not at all. Robbins really hammers this point. Blaming other people for where you are or just waiting around for someone to rescue you, that's a massive waste of your energy. Let me is the empowering part. It brings the focus right back to what you can control, your actions, your choices, where you direct your energy to build the life you actually want.
Okay, let's make this practical. How does let them help with something universal like, say, stress management? How does it protect our energy there?
This is where you can see the immediate payoff, I think. Just think about how often you let other people's actions totally hijack your stress levels.
All the time. Someone cuts you off in traffic.
Yeah. Or a colleague sends a snippy email.
Instantly stressed.
Exactly. These external things trigger an internal stress response. And often we feel like we're just reacting like we're victims of their annoying behavior.
Right, like they made me feel stressed.
But let them flips that script. You can't control the driver. You can't control the email tone. But you absolutely can control how you respond. The let them decision is choosing consciously, okay, that was annoying, but I'm not letting it ruin my mood or steal my peace. You preserve your energy.
And the let me part in that stress scenario.
The let me is about taking ownership of your internal state, recognizing that stress building up the tight shoulders, the racing thoughts, and actively choosing to reset.
How?
It could be taking a deep breath. It could be shifting your focus. Robbins uses the example of someone being rude in line at a store. Let them is acknowledging their behavior isn't great, but deciding it won't wreck your day. Let me is the active choice. I'm going to breathe, focus on my own shopping, and not let their negativity infect my experience and drain my energy.
That feels much more powerful.
Yeah.
Puts you back in the driver's seat emotionally. Okay, another big one. The fear of what other people think. How does let them tackle that energy drain?
Ugh, this one is huge. Robbins argues this fear is like a major roadblock. It stops us from doing so much.
How so?
Well, it fuels procrastination, right? What if they don't like it? It breeds self-doubt. Am I good enough? And ultimately, it can make us just give up on dreams before we even start because we're so worried about potential judgment. All that worry just saps our energy.
We've all felt that pause before hitting send or post, haven't we? That hesitation.
Totally. And the core truth here, according to Let Them, is people are going to have opinions anyway. Positive, negative, indifferent. It's going to happen no matter what you do.
You can't please everyone.
You really can't. You could bend over backwards trying, and someone, somewhere, will still find fault. So the freedom comes when you accept that. Let them think whatever they want. It frees up all that mental energy you were spending trying to manage their perceptions.
So by letting go of controlling their opinions, we actually free ourselves up to act more authentically.
Exactly. When you act based on your own values, what feels right and true for you, you build this internal sense of integrity. You feel proud of yourself. And when you feel solid inside, what other people think just matters less.
The focus shifts inward.
Right. To your opinion of yourself. Robbins even tells a story about how she delayed starting her social media stuff for years because she was scared of being criticized. Think of the missed opportunities, the wasted energy.
Wow. Yeah, that fear really can paralyze you and just drain your drive.
Okay, what about dealing with other people's emotions? Guilt trips, bad moods that can be exhausting.
Oh, incredibly draining. This is another area where let them can bring massive relief and save your energy. We often feel this weird sense of responsibility for managing how other people feel.
Like walking on eggshells?
Totally.
Yeah.
Trying to fix their bad mood, trying not to trigger their disappointment, avoiding the guilt trips. It's like being an emotional caretaker for everyone else.
Exhausting. And Let Them basically says, their emotional maturity, or lack thereof, is not your job to fix. You're not their therapist. And Robbins has this pretty memorable phrase for it.
What's that?
She says, most adults are just 8-year-old children inside of big bodies.
Wow. Okay, that paints a picture. Elaborate on that a bit.
Well, think about it. How often do adults basically throw tantrums when things don't go their way? pouting, the silent treatment, passive-aggressive texts, maybe even full-blown yelling.
Yeah, you see it.
These are basically grown-up versions of childhood tactics, right?
Hmm?
Trying to get a reaction, trying to control the situation through emotional manipulation.
So applying let them in those moments means,
It means allowing them to feel their feelings, anger, disappointment, whatever, without you needing to jump in and fix it or absorb it or take responsibility for it.
and the let me?
Let me means prioritizing your own emotional well-being, not getting sucked into their drama. You can have empathy, sure, but you don't let their emotional storm dictate your own internal weather. You protect your energy.
Okay, last big area, and it's a tough one, especially now. Chronic comparison. Scrolling Instagram and feeling less than. How does let them help with that energy sinkhole?
Yeah, the comparison trap is real, and it just eats away at your energy and motivation. Robbins acknowledges how common it is, and she points out the absolute futility of trying to control someone else's luck, or their timing, or the advantages they might seem to have.
It feels so unfair sometimes watching others succeed when you feel stuck.
It does, and that feeling can be paralyzing. It leads to feeling hopeless, demotivated, like you're always behind, which, again, massive energy drain. The let them part here is about accepting that life isn't always fair. People get dealt different hands, you can't control their cards or when they hit a winning streak.
So except you can't control their success. But how do we stop it from making us feel bad? How do we reframe it?
This is where it gets interesting. Instead of seeing others' success as proof of your failure, let them encourages you to see it as, well, data, as an opportunity to learn. Learn what's possible. See how they play the game. Their success can actually teach you something, show you a path, maybe even highlight where you're holding yourself back.
So that pang of jealousy,
Yeah.
it could actually be useful.
Exactly. Robbins calls jealousy an invitation from your future self. It shows you what you desire, what might actually be achievable for you, too. She talks about her friend Molly envying someone else online. Instead of stewing in resentment and feeling drained, Molly could use that envy.
Ow.
Analyze it. Okay, what is this person doing that resonates? What actions are they taking? The anger you might feel when comparing. Maybe that anger is really directed at yourself for not taking consistent action.
Ah, okay. And the let me part in overcoming comparison, how does that focus our energy?
Let me is about taking that data, seeing what works for others, and then putting in what Robbins calls the representatives.
Representatives.
Yeah, basically the reps, the consistent effort, the daily actions, showing up, doing the work. It means focusing on playing your hand the best you possibly can instead of obsessing over someone else's cards. You direct your precious energy towards your own progress.
That's a much more productive way to look at it. Turns comparison from an energy drain into potential fuel and sharpens your focus back onto your own game.
Precisely. So you've got let them, letting others be on their journey without it derailing yours. And let me, taking full ownership of your path, your energy, your actions. It's a powerful combo for navigating life with, hopefully, a bit more peace and a lot more focus.
So wrapping up the let them theory.
Yeah.
Really, it's about reclaiming your own power, choosing what gets your energy and focusing that energy where it counts on yourself and what you can control.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing you can't control others, letting go of that exhausting effort, and then using the let me principle to channel all that saved energy into your own growth, your own well-being.
It definitely gives you a lot to think about how we react, where our energy goes, especially when dealing with other people. A good framework for protecting that energy and staying focused.
For sure. It invites you to consider, how could applying just those two phrases, let them, let me, shift things for you? Could it lift some burdens, free up some energy for what truly matters?
One more. Listen to the full audiobook with a free Audible trial link in the show notes or description box below.